Dear diary, or rather, dear fellow taxpayers, I have some potentially good news for each and every one of you. I am a bit of a genius jailhouse lawyer. I have kicked the asses of Goliaths over and over again in numerous courts. I've beaten lawyers, beaten my own lawyers, etc., etc. And if you're like me, you've noticed for many, many, many moons that there's only one real problem in this world: media, journalists. Right? There's no World War II without the lies of journalists helping install the Nazis in the 1933 elections. In every election in your life in America, you've seen that they give the people the choice between a corporate robot or another corporate robot. It's always the lesser of two evils. We never like any of the candidates. They're always garbage. They will not give us candidates we like. That's obvious because that would be a threat to the corporations that own the media. Doi. Right? Why would GE, a weapons manufacturer, buy NBC? Oh, that's right. Without the lies of the Cold War, they would have lost trillions of dollars in business. The problem is no one, and everyone knows the media are dirty, dirty, dirty criminals. They're the most organized bunch of criminals in human history. They're more powerful than every world's armies in all human history combined. Even the Nazis told you that. The media is more powerful than anything. They install all the people into power. Without corrupt media, there can be no corrupt big business. There can be no corrupt politicians. There can be no crime. There can be no problems unless the media is corrupt. So the question, because I'm a person who likes to solve problems, is there's got to be a way to stop these fucking super duper Nazis. And when I've talked to people, everyone realizes they're corrupt, but they have the biggest guns. Who can go after them? Anyone could arrest all of these reporters tomorrow. The attorney generals could, every state attorney generals could, every district attorney could arrest them. They commit all kinds of fraud every single day. Some of you naively think that the media has freedom of the press. Well, yeah, freedom of the press doesn't include lying to your customers. That's felony fraud. Same when a politician makes campaign promises and then breaks them once elected. That's felony fraud. It's the same thing all kinds of businesses get busted for doing, bait and switch. You promise somebody one thing and you deliver something else. It's not legal, and it's crazy that Americans believe the lie that it is legal. It's not. Anybody in America could sue any politician for fraud and then you'd have to prove damages. You'd have to prove your taxes went up. You'd have to prove that your streets have more potholes. You'd have to prove that you were somehow damaged by their lies to steal an election. Not hard to do, but again, we wouldn't have to worry about bad politicians are the symptom. You want to go after the problem. You want all your firepower to go after the problem. So I'm going to try and tell you how I think I found two ways that any of you can fight back and stop these super duper Nazis. For instance, now the first thing I realized is, all right, here I am in New York City, the world capital of media, the world capital of liars. Now, I've done massive amounts of research over 10 years proving lies by the journalists. These are not mistakes. These journalists cannot even pretend, oh, we made a mistake. No, because they make the same mistake every single day. They're fucking liars. When Bloomberg was the most unpopular person in human history, they all said in every single article, he's so popular, he's so popular, he's so popular. You repeat the lie, which is what Hitler taught them. You repeat the lie. But again, any person in America can sue ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, the Daily News, the New York Post, the Boston Globe, the Village Voice. All you have to do is show fraud, which is easy, and then you have to show damages from that fraud, which is easy. So at first I was like, shit, I can maybe sue them that way in New York State Supreme Court, civil courts. I can show massive damages, especially because I've had lots of articles written about me. I've had hundreds and hundreds of articles written about me in the New York Times on down, and all of them fudged facts, not one of them fact-checked, and almost none of them ever asked me or my lawyers for any kind of quote. They just reprinted whatever lies the government told them, and each year they'd find out, the government lied to us all. Well, next year, we're going to repeat whatever the government says without an opposing viewpoint again. I mean, right there, you can find articles with no opposing viewpoint in all the major media. Well, that's felony fraud. They could say, well, we didn't know politicians lie, so we just reprint what they tell us with no opposing viewpoint. Well, tell that to the civil jury. You're going to be fucking convicted in seconds, you fucking pieces of shit. So that was my plan. Felony fraud. There's more evidence you can possibly imagine. Also, right now is the best time in human history because we have the biggest criminal and media mogul in human history holding political office, Michael Bloomberg, who stole $5 billion before he even became mayor. You can't say that about the Nazis or Stalin or most of the madmen in history. Bloomberg has done shit that's never been done in American history. He is the creepiest totalitarian in American history. This is a guy he's bought journalists off. He's given record bribes to all the media outlets. He's cheated everything like never before. But that's why my lawsuits would actually be probably right now is the best time to hit. My lawsuits couldn't be stronger than with a mayor who bribed all the media to lie about him. One, we can prove that every single thing they wrote about him is a lie. We can prove that none of his businesses are profitable. We can prove that he's the most unpopular person in American history. We can prove all of these different things. We can prove that in his own autobiography he said he had to break laws to get so rich. Duh. We can show endless amounts of evidence that they lied because he gave them money. Huge record amounts of money in advertising, etc. That's not open to debate. The mayor himself has admitted this. This is all public record. Now, the question is a jury going to believe, would the New York Times lie for $1 billion? Would they remember, they're telling white lies, so it's even more harmless, right? We're telling you white lies about how great this man is so you keep voting him to office. He stole 3 elections. That's treason. And the details are shocking. That's treason. You could literally hang Mayor Bloomberg and most of the journalists in New York City. What they did was not simply lie to their customers. They didn't just defraud us. They canceled democracy. Never mind the term limits thing he did, which is unprecedented in American history and in most of the world's history. There's no disputing Mayor Bloomberg is one of the greatest madmen, mass murdering psychopaths in American history and in many ways world history. But you don't know the details. How would you? The media never reported them. I'm an undercover reporter, an investigative reporter. I do a lot of work. I do my homework. And I've personally been tortured by Mayor Bloomberg's goons. I've personally faced this piece of shit a couple times in public. And he had his goons, his Gestapo, take me out for questioning his honor, his Nazi highness or lowness, depending on your perspective. So that I was going to try that, but then I found out last summer that RICO, the racketeering statute they use against mob families and the mafia, is available for civilians to use in federal court. Ding, 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 ding. And I said, oh man, that's good news. Fuck the state courts, which are primitive compared to the federal courts. Of course, it's all a roll of the dice. If I get a fucking asshole judge appointed by Bush, I'm fuck out of luck. And the federal judges have lifetime appointments, so they theoretically don't have to cater to whoever appointed them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Sandra Day O'Connor stabbed Reagan in the back repeatedly and came up with verdicts that were honest, that were not something that Ronald Reagan would have liked, because she didn't have to be afraid. That's not to say the Supreme Court justices aren't crooks, and a lot of federal judges aren't crooks. Of course they are. They're all appointed by politicians. It's not even remotely an independent branch. I love that. They taught you, didn't they? Am I wrong? Did they teach you since you were a little child that there's 3 branches of government as checks and balances? Okay, so how does the judiciary police the executive branch if the judiciary was put into power by the executive branch? Is that a slight conflict of interest? That's retarded. You were lied to about everything, and it's your time now and your turn to fight back against these motherfucking pieces of shit. Again, you don't need to sue anyone except for major media. Now, there's more fun facts here. RICO is racketeering. I would have to prove in a federal court, in front of a federal jury, that what they do is fraud. They deceive their customers. Done. Take seconds. I got hundreds of thousands of things. And every single day, the media must post new crimes by them. That's their whole business model. Online. Imagine if the Gotti family had to post 100% of their crimes every single day online. Well, it would be kind of pretty easy to bring them down under the law. That's what the media does. The media is so arrogant, they don't have to be afraid, because who's going to touch them? They can destroy anybody's career in one day. They can make up shit. They can smear anybody they want. No politician can touch them because they make or break anyone's life. They printed so many lies about me, destroyed my life. I can prove that. So I'm a really good person to kick off the first lawsuit. I'm also an ex-journalist who's written for lots of papers, can tell you all their dirty tricks. So it could be really good news. But now my point is, all across the country, any taxpayer can sue ABC, NBC, CBS, New York One, the Huffington Post, who took a lot of money from Bloomberg. All these people are criminals, and they robbed you of everything. You can show plenty of damage. The war in Iraq, everyone agrees they didn't fact check. They were wrong. Even Bush said, "Oh, I guess the media were wrong. They didn't fact check. They just believed me, and I was totally mistaken about the weapons of mass destruction." Oops. Well, we just lost a couple trillion, even though I promised Saddam's money would pay for the war. So right there, I'm financially liable. And the right-wingers who supported me in the media supported that lie to sell it to the American people. Don't worry, this ain't going to cost you no money. We're going to use Saddam's billions to pay for this. All lies. Everything they said was lies. Nothing they said was true. Did you lose money because of media lies? The answer is yes. You lost almost your entire life savings. Everybody in America would have a swimming pool in their fucking house with the money media helped government steal in 1 year. Hell, with just the money stolen in Afghanistan, every person in America could have a house they own, no debt, and a swimming pool. But all your money was stolen by media. Because remember, the politicians and the journalists all work for the same, they're just puppets for the same corporate interests. And you legally, ABC legally owes you that money. You legally have a right to get your money back, your damages. Now wait, it's even better. RICO, because they made it so strong to get the mafia, allows for treble damages, which means triplicate. So if you can show that they stole $100,000 from you, you get $300,000 from ABC. Now, I can't imagine the federal judge, even if I win everything, is going to say, well, I'm going to make them reimburse. They might make them only reimburse me. I can show a couple $1 million in damages, but that's it. But then we could open up the floodgates and everybody can sue. The problem is, of course, then the corporations would go bankrupt. But the point is, we could change America forever, theoretically. Right? If we bar them from spreading lies ever again or not disclosing financial conflicts of interest, etc., 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 that changes the game forever. Right? I mean, here in New York City, for 10 years, the newspapers told everyone every day that Mayor Bloomberg was the greatest mayor ever. The left-wing papers all said it. All the right-wing papers said it. And so most of the sheeple believed it. Because Americans aren't not nearly as smart as I think they are, and New Yorkers aren't as educated as they think they are. They're idiots. They believed every single thing the newspapers told them. And it was all lies. Most of it was transparent lies. But they couldn't see through it because humans want to believe and they want to be hopeful. And you just cross your fingers. Oh, I hope this politician is honest. I know the last 100% weren't, but this one, I think, he promises hope and change. It's got to be true. Why would he say it if it wasn't true? You were scammed. You were robbed. By law, you have a right to get your money back. So I've already filed the RICO lawsuit a few weeks ago. We're gonna maybe I'll keep you guys abreast. But please, wherever you are in America, especially if you're poor like me, you can file federal lawsuits. Go to the pro se office. That's Latin for you couldn't get a scumbag lawyer to help you. Pro se offices are pretty helpful. And they waive all the fees if you're broke like me, if you were robbed blind. So I don't have to pay any fees. And it's relatively easy to file the lawsuit. I just make my complaint, and I've compiled mounts and mounts of evidence, but you can just tomorrow pick up any newspaper, watch any news broadcast, or the day after. They break the law in every single way. Even the entertainment press breaks the law every day. They're getting kickbacks. Here in New York City, The Onion, The Village Voice, Time Out New York, they're getting kickbacks from their largest advertisers, Madison Square Garden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every week, The Onion and the Time Out and The Voice, and all of them are all recommending the same already sold out shows at Madison Square Garden and Bowery Ballroom and all their largest advertisers. That's not legal. That's a racket. That's more of a racket than anything the mob does. It's a total racket. You understand? They're scamming their customers so they can scalp them all those tickets to the already sold out shows, which aren't really actually sold out. I mean, I'll spare you the details of all that. It's shocking. A little bit like the Springsteen scandal with Ticketmaster a couple of years ago. They're cheating everything. Entertainment, news, cheated. Everything is cheated. The only things that are still honest, there's only a few things that are still honest, like movie reviews. You'll see multi-million-dollar corporations getting horrible reviews. So they haven't cheated that system yet, but they've cheated almost everything else. You'll see it. All the great reviews for all the cheesiest fucking Jessica Simpsons and all this crap. They're getting kickbacks. That's all racketeering. And the New York Times got over $1 billion from Rudy Giuliani. And then all their articles were about how he was the greatest. That's racketeering. That's why they all said he was the hero of 9/11. No, he wasn't, but he gave them over $8 billion. New York Post got $800 million. Daily News got $500 million from Rudy Giuliani. He stole all that money from the MTA's budget and all, and from the homeless services and from the elderly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He stole all the money, and then he gave it to the corporations. That's Boss Tweed was doing that in the 1800s. This isn't new. We know exactly what's going on. But no one has the courage to take on the most dangerous mafia of all time. Now, ironically, they destroyed my life, so now I don't have to be afraid of them. What are you going to do? Destroy my life? Fucking douchebags. Fight back. Spread the word. Any American can file, as long as you're a customer of the mainstream media, can file a RICO lawsuit arguing that these media got money, that their corporations made profits because of their lies. All racketeering. And you have a right to your damages back. Every penny they stole from you, every penny they lost. Have you ever had a car that got a flat tire from hitting a pothole? All of these things are the lies of media. All of them. There can be no problems in media. In the world, without media lies. Here in New York City, we have an increase in domestic violence. You know why? Because they got rid of affordable housing. So all these guys and girls who wouldn't normally move in together are forced to move in together so they can survive because the rent is too high and all the fucking bills are too damn high. Because of the lies of media, right? They tell you, Con Ed, the head of Con Edison, used to get paid $100,000 a year. He was overpaid. Now he gets $5 million a year. But they don't want to talk about that. The head of the public library here in New York City. Head of the public library makes $700,000 a year, and he's slashing library services more than ever before in New York City history. How does he get away with that? Because the media won't talk about it, so nobody knows. Again, if corruption happens in the forest and the media doesn't report it, does it make a sound? Media is the number one enemy of the human race. You have a right to sue the fuck out of these fraudulent criminals. And fraud's only part of it. I think you get them for unjust enrichment and maybe a whole variety of other common law principles if you want to do the homework. I'm just going to get them on a bunch of simple things. Please spread the word. We must all unite to destroy these fucking super criminals. And if you see a journalist, punch him in the face. Fucking super Nazis. Again, there was no Holocaust without the lies of corrupt journalists. There was no Nazi Germany without the lies of journalists whose corporate masters wanted the Nazis installed because the Nazis promised to serve the corporations. Okay? You guys all think like the Nazis, like Hitler was the mastermind. No, he wasn't. The corporations were the mastermind, you fools. And they all stole all the Jews' property, etc., etc., etc. And lots of other people's. And lastly, again, do yourself a favor. Google Julius Streicher, Streicher. Julius Streicher, a German newspaper editor, hung at Nuremberg. They said, you maybe didn't pull a trigger or weren't even part of the military, but your lies in your newspaper did just as much to kill people. Thank you. What I'm saying is not even radical. Forget about getting the major media to pay us. They should be hanging for treason. They murdered America, and you have a right to self-defense.